Ever felt like someone's watching you? A prickle on the back of your neck, the feeling of eyes on you even in an empty room? We dismiss it, right? Nerves, an overactive imagination. But what if it's real? What if that feeling isn't just in your head? This is the story of Alex, a programmer who spent his days lost in lines of code and his nights lost in the city's neon glow. He lived a life of quiet routine, predictable and safe, until the day the routine broke. It started subtly. A coffee mug moved on his desk. A file on his computer he didn't remember opening. Small, insignificant things he easily explained away. The cleaning crew. A system glitch. A moment of forgetfulness. But the anomalies grew bolder. One evening, he came home to find his favorite armchair, the one perfectly angled towards the window, moved a few inches to the left. It was facing the door now, as if waiting for him. Chills ran down his spine, but he pushed the fear down. I must have bunked it, he told himself, forcing a laugh that sounded hollow even to his own ears. The next morning, a single unfamiliar key sat on his kitchen counter. It was old brass with an intricate design. It wasn't his. He lived alone. The locks had been changed 3 months ago. Panic began to bubble up, hot and suffocating. He searched every drawer, every pocket, trying to find a logical origin for this object. There was none. He threw it in the trash, his heart hammering against his ribs. That night, sleep offered no escape. He dreamt of whispers in the static of an old radio, of shadows moving in his peripheral vision. He woke up in a cold sweat, the feeling of being watched more intense than ever. He got out of bed and crept through his own apartment like an intruder. Everything was still. Everything was quiet. Too quiet. He decided to install a security camera, a small, discreet one, pointed at his living room. He needed proof. He needed to show himself he was just being paranoid, that his mind, tired from long hours at work, was playing tricks on him. He spent the day at the office, distracted, constantly checking the live feed on his phone. Nothing, just an empty room, bathed in the afternoon sun. He felt a wave of relief. It was all in his head. When he got home, he poured himself a drink, sat on his couch, and decided to review the day's footage, just to be sure. He fast-forwarded through hours of sunlight shifting across the floor. Nothing. He was about to turn it off when he saw it. A flicker. He rewound. Played it again. There. For a fraction of a second, at exactly 3:15 p.m., a figure blurred past the camera's view. It was too fast to make out any details. Just a dark shape moving with impossible speed. Alex's blood ran cold. It wasn't a glitch. It was real. He wasn't alone. He spent the rest of the night with the lights on, jumping at every creak of the building. The feeling of being watched was no longer a suspicion. It was a certainty. The watcher was in his home. But how? And more importantly, why? The next day, Alex found a note slipped under his door. It was written on a piece of aged, yellowed paper, in a looping, elegant script he'd never seen before. It contained a single sentence. "I know you see me." That was it, the last straw. Alex packed a bag. He didn't know where he was going, just that he had to get out. He drove for hours, heading north, away from the city, away from his apartment, away from the watcher. He found a small motel in a town he'd never heard of, paid in cash, and locked himself in the room. For the first time in days, he felt a sliver of peace. He was hundreds of miles away. He was safe. He fell into an exhausted sleep, the deepest he'd had in weeks. He awoke to a soft, rhythmic tapping. Tap, tap, tap. It was coming from the window. Alex's heart leaped into his throat. He slowly, silently pulled himself out of bed and crept toward the curtain. His hand trembled as he reached for the edge. He took a deep breath and pulled it back. Nothing. Just the empty motel parking lot shimmering under a single flickering lamppost. He let out a shaky breath, his mind screaming at him. "You're losing it, Alex. You're really losing it." He turned away from the window, and that's when he saw it. On the small table beside the bed, where his wallet and keys lay, was another object. An old brass key with an intricate design. The same key he had thrown in the trash back in his apartment. And next to it, a new note, written in the same elegant script. It read, "You can't run from what's already inside." Alex stumbled back, his eyes wide with a terror that went beyond simple fear. He looked at his reflection in the dark TV screen. His own face stared back, but for a split second, the eyes weren't his. They were dark, ancient, and filled with a chilling, possessive amusement. The whispers from his dream returned, clearer this time, not from the static of a radio, but from inside his own mind. The coffee mug, the armchair, the key. It wasn't an intruder. It wasn't someone breaking in. The anomalies, the feeling of being watched, the figure on the camera, it was him. Or rather, something that was sharing his body, a passenger who had been dormant and was now waking up. A second personality, a darker half that had been there all along, playing a game with his sanity. He was the one moving the furniture. He was the one leaving the notes. He was the one who had driven hundreds of miles, only to bring the monster with him. The Watcher wasn't in his home. The Watcher asterisk was asterisk's home. Alex stared at his own hands, suddenly seeing them as foreign, as the hands of a stranger. He was trapped, not in an apartment, not in a motel room, but in his own mind. And the other tenant was finally ready to take over the lease. The tapping started again, but this time, Alex knew it wasn't coming from the window. It was coming from inside his own skull. Tap, tap. A polite, patient knock on the door of his consciousness. A door he knew was about to be forced wide open, and there was nowhere left to run. What do you think happened to Alex? Does his story resonate with that little feeling of paranoia we all sometimes get? Perhaps the most terrifying monsters aren't the ones hiding under the bed, but the ones hiding behind our own eyes. Let me know your theories in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more dives into the darkness. Stay safe.